Hi guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing my October wrap up. I cannot believe that it is the end of October. It's actually Halloween today, hence why I have got this mysterious yellow orange glow going on in the background, just to give you a bit of atmosphere, because that's always fun. This month I read a total of 9 books, which I think is the best. There's a car alarm going off outside and that's really annoying me. Why does this always happen when I start filming a video? Literally. This is my life, guys. Like I said, I read a total of 9 books this month, which is the best I have ever done, I think. I don't think I've ever read more than maybe 4 books in a month, so I'm super happy with myself. My reading game has been on point in October, and I'm going to talk about those books that I read now. So we'll start off with the first book that I finished this month, and I actually started reading this towards the end of September, and it's Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is a book all about a girl that ends up falling in love with her boyfriend's dad. She lives with her boyfriend and it's her birthday, and he was meant to be going to the cinema with her after work, but he ended up standing her up, so she went to the cinema on her own, and she met this guy there called Pike, who was much older than her, and they got on, were talking, and she thought that was that. She liked him, but she didn't really expect anything else of it. Fast forward a bit later, and something happens which means that her and her boyfriend have to leave the house that they were renting together and move in with his dad. And spoiler alert, that dad is the guy that she met in the cinema. This is an adult romance, and I don't really read adult romance that much. You could say that this book is erotica. There is a lot of smut in it, so if you don't like overly graphic sex scenes, avoid this book. I wouldn't normally read a book like this. This is something that I probably would have read way back when I was a teenager in college, and I just discovered boys and all of that. But I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but on reflection I probably would give it 3 stars. It's not overly amazing, the writing is very basic, the sex scenes are very repetitive, but it doesn't take away from the whole enjoyment of the story. I really enjoyed the chemistry between the 2 characters of Jordan and Pike. There was a lot of really frustrating sexual tension, and it is really heavy in the tropes. It is so cliched, and the ending was a little bit underwhelming for me, I will admit, but overall I did enjoy it. I would definitely recommend this to you if you are looking for a steamy adult romance to cozy up to at night time. Give this one a go, it is a lot of fun. Another book that I started in September and only just finished this month is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this book because I have talked about it a lot on my channel already. You guys know that I am an absolute whore for this book, and it is really my favourite book to read when we transition into autumn. It's very atmospheric. I love all of the creepy elements. I love the gothic horror. I love the setting of Whitby and Transylvania. I really think that this is like the perfect book to read at this time of the year. This is a reread for me. I have read this book a number of times, so I didn't prioritise it too much during my reading month, and it was something that I just read on the side of other things, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it, will always love it, will always recommend it. My non-fiction book this month was By Order of the Peaky Blinders. This is the official companion to the TV show. This came out at the start of October, and it was pretty much an impulse buy for me. I saw that it was released and I just pressed add to basket basically. This gives you an insight into the behind the scenes of the show. It touches upon the history of the Peaky Blinders and the inspiration for the show. It talks about the casting of the characters, and we have some written accounts from the actors that play the characters and how they really bring the characters to life on the screen. It talks about the sets and the costumes. It's a really, really in-depth look into the show and how it's made. So if you're a fan of Peaky Blinders, I would really, really suggest that you give this a go. Another audiobook that I listened to this month was The Chalkman by CJ Tudor, and I am a little bit disappointed with this book, if I'm honest. I was very underwhelmed by this book. I gave it 3 stars, and it's not necessarily a bad book. The story is rather interesting. It did, make me want to keep turning the pages to find out what was happening, but I think when the things that happened, I felt like they were just forced in. For shock factor, there was no kind of foreshadowing, there was no hinting at what could be next. It just fell very flat for me. The ending was very underwhelming, but I still liked the poignancy of the last few lines, and I won't spoil it for you, but it is to do with the guy's dad having Alzheimer's. But overall, I didn't really get the creepy vibes from it. Everyone was saying that it's like the perfect book to read at this time of year, and that it was very creepy, and there were moments that were very unsettling, and I could see why they think that, but maybe I just have higher expectations of creepiness and what I find scary, and it just didn't do it for me in that respect. I still enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook in one sitting, so I must have enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say that this is amazing, unfortunately. Now we're moving on to my Spookathon reads. So if you don't know, I did participate in the Spookathon. This was reading creepy books for 7 days straight, and I read 3 out of the 5 books that I had planned to read for Spookathon in that week, so I was very, very chuffed with that achievement. And the first book that I read for that readathon was This Monstrous Thing by Mackenzie Lee. I absolutely loved this book. This is the second book that I have read by Mackenzie Lee, the first one being Loki Where Mischief Lies, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I gave that book 5 stars. This one wasn't quite 5 stars for me. I gave it 4 stars just because the ending felt a little bit rushed, and I feel like there could have been more to the story than what we got. Overall, I absolutely loved it. I loved the really creepy steampunk vibes. I loved the whole thing about it being a Frankenstein retelling. We basically follow these 2 characters called Oliver and Alistair. They're both brothers, and Oliver died, and Alistair brought him back to life using clockwork parts. And there's this whole society of clockwork people that are kind of shunned by everybody else, and there's this group of guys called the Shadow Boys who build these clockwork people and give people, metal body parts and things like that, and it's kind of like an illegal underground thing, and the police are monitoring it. And yeah, there's so much in this book that I want to talk about, but I don't want to spoil it for you guys, so the only way that you can find out is by reading it. But thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved the location of 1818 Geneva. I loved the inclusion of Frankenstein and Mary Shelley. It was a very, very fun twist, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it, but it really paid off for me. And it has made me want to read Frankenstein. I've never read it, which is shameful, and I feel like I'm gonna get attacked for that, but yeah, I do want to read it now. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Another book that I read for the Spookathon was The Whitby Witches by Robin Jarvis. This is a middle grade novel, and it follows these 2 kids called Ben and Jeanette, who are moving to Whitby and going to live with their new foster parent, who in this book is called Aunt Alice. Ben is basically this kid that is able to see ghosts, and he also has the ability to see these mythical creatures that live by the sea in the caves around Whitby. And there's also a mysterious woman that moves to town. There are a few murders. There's, inclusions of a lot of Whitby myths and legends like St. Hilda and the Bar Guest. I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Again, I thought the ending was not enough. I could have read more, but the last 100 or so pages were a real big roller coaster ride, and I could never have predicted what was going on at the end. It was crazy. But this book had a lot of really good, creepy, witchy vibes. Oh my gosh. It was more than what I was expecting. I mean, children's novels tend to blow me away anyway, because there's something about children's books that are just so much more superior to adult novels, because they have this element of magic and surrealism to them that you're never going to get as an adult. When you're a kid, you imagine the most bizarre and unthinkable things sometimes, and this novel touches upon all of that. But I would definitely recommend this for this time of the year. It was absolutely fantastic. And if you like ghosts, if you like witches, if you like myths and legends, if you like big scary dogs with fiery red eyes, that's the book for you. The last book that I read for Spookathon is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I don't do well with a lot of classics. There are only a few classics that I have really been able to connect with. This was not one of them. I was really hoping that I was going to like it. I loved the film when I watched it years and years ago, and I think the idea behind the story and the message that it's trying to convey is great. The concept is really cool, but this book just really didn't do it for me, unfortunately. I listened to the audiobook over the span of about 5 days, and I just really struggled with it. And I don't know if it's me and if I missed the plot, but I felt like nothing happened. And the writing is just way too flowery for me. I just couldn't get into the writing style. And I know that it's a classic, and I know that back then in the 1800s, the writing style was a lot more formal, but I didn't like it, and it really put me off, and I felt so bored throughout most of the book. And then when something did happen that was relevant to the plot, it was over so quickly. It was a shame. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it, and I ended up giving it 2 stars, and I feel like that's really generous, but I don't want to take away from the fact that it is a good story. There are really cool ideas. It was just the fact that the characters went on and on and on and weren't even that interesting to begin with, that it just ruined the whole thing for me. On to another book that really disappointed me. And in fact, this book didn't disappoint me. It made me angry to the point that I don't want to think about it. That unfortunate book is Anatomy of a Scandal by Sarah Vaughan. I picked this for the challenge to read a thriller in the Spookathon, and I never really got round to it. I read it on the last day and I got about 70 pages in. And I was going to read this first for the Spookathon because I was very, very excited to read about it. I thought the plot was going to be really good. It sounded like something that I would like. But let me tell you, I am so glad that I didn't read this first for Spookathon, because if I had, I don't think I would have carried on with the readathon. I fucking hate this book. I absolutely hate this book with a passion. And I can't believe I got 150 pages into it, and I can't believe I gave it that much of my time. This book is just so bad, and I don't understand why it has such a good rating on Goodreads. Like, on Goodreads, people are reviewing this and saying it's amazing. They seem to love it. They think it's so gripping. Even the back of this book says that it's a page-turning thriller. It is not a fucking page-turning thriller. Let me tell you right now, this is not a page-turning fucking thriller at all. So, just to sum it up, it's basically about this couple, this woman, she is married to this guy, he's called James and she's called Sophie or whatever, and he's a member of parliament, and he had this affair with another person called Olivia, and they get caught like having sex in a lift or whatever, or she revealed it, I don't even remember. And then he decides to end the relationship with her because he's realised that what he's done is wrong and he wants to be with Sophie and his kids. She then accuses him of rape, so trigger warning, you know, this book has a very heavy theme in it. And then we follow this woman called Kate who works at the Old Bailey. She's a lawyer and she is basically there to, you know, fight Olivia's corner and convict this guy of rape. And honestly, that storyline sounds like something I would read. But my issue with this book is the writing. The writing is terrible. I feel like this writer is trying to be something that she is clearly not. She's trying to be this great classic writer and it just fell really flat. The writing is just way too much for me. It was just this entire monologue after monologue after monologue of characters' thoughts and, you know, their past and blah blah blah, whatever. There's no showing and too much telling, and I hate that in a book. I hate that. Like, I'm not a good writer. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about really good writing. I do it in my spare time. I'm not a best-selling author or whatever, but the first rule of writing is that you show and not fucking tell, and all this book did was tell. I kept going because I wanted to get to the good stuff, but 150 pages in and the good stuff never really happened, and I don't understand what the character of Holly had to do with any of it. I didn't really see or have an inkling of how she fit into the story, and I know you'll say if you carried on till the end you would have found out, and I probably would have, and maybe the ending's good and maybe it would have paid off, but it just, the timelines were so choppy, the book didn't flow, and I just ended up skimming over nearly every page to try and get to the meaty stuff, and I never got there. So I gave this book 1 star. If I could give it 0 stars, I would have, and I really think Goodreads should give us the option to do that because this book was just... Okay. Moving on. And the last book that I read this month, and I managed to cram this book in today before filming this video because I wanted to sit down on Halloween and actually read something before heading to work, and that is Tall Tales for Dark Nights by Owen Elgie. This is just a collection of short stories, and the stories centre around a lot of different but creepy themes. So we have creepy dolls, we have scary murderous goblins, we have murderous people, you know, haunted houses, space travel, time travel, that kind of thing, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars because the stories are very basic, and some of them are quite mediocre, but there are a few that do have a lot of funny and unusual quirky twists on them at the end which make you go, oh, okay. And yeah, I will definitely admit that I had a very good time reading this. It's very short, it's only 84 pages long, so I read this in 1 sitting. Very easy to read. I do wish some of the short stories were longer because I think they could be great novels. But yeah, if you want a good little collection of short stories to read at this time of the year, then pick this one up. Okay guys, wow, we got through that list and it's only 30 minutes long, so that wasn't too bad. If you've read any of these books, please, as always, let me know what you thought of them because I would love to hear your opinions. And if you've got any book recommendations for me as well, like always, I would appreciate those. Just drop a little comment down below. I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a cheeky thumbs up if you liked it. Click subscribe and hit the bell button if you want to see more from me in the future. I will link all my social media down below as well, so you can check that out. Go and follow me on Instagram. Look at all of my reviews on Goodreads. And I will see you all in another video very soon. Bye guys.